All right. Well, welcome, Brian, to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Gabriel. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. It's definitely been one of our most anticipated and one of the guests that we've been looking forward to having on the show. So I know
Too
you're in New
kind.
York right now. It's pretty cold up there. Give me kind of like a quick insight, highlight. What's been going on since the new year for you?
Well, the new year actually kicks off on March 20th, but
If you're
um,
going by the Chinese New Year.
yeah. Well, no, the Chinese New Year is more like February. It's coming.
Oh, this is
It's
this
in
is true.
it's in 2 weeks, I think, Chinese New Year.
Okay, gotcha,
But I'm
gotcha.
talking about the really New Year, which is the vernal equinox, which is spring. So
Okay, okay.
our
So,
ancestors years ago weren't going by January 1st. The New Year's not in the dead of winter. That's a control program.
mm,
New Year should be March 20th when the sun rises.
that makes sense.
That's when we get all our energy and our health.
Wow. So basically, and I heard you mentioned this on one of your prior interviews. Basically, I mean, this is all a lot of what we learn is essentially backwards. It's kind of like a lot of unlearning that we have to do as part of our development and growth as real humans on this planet.
Right. Right. Yep. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now too in terms of breath work.
Makes sense.
It's just a term that's very loosely thrown around, and now it's like the early 90s now when yoga got very popular in the late 80s and 90s. And then everybody wanted to be a yoga teacher because you could make a good living, but yoga got, watered down.
Hmm.
The original tenets of yoga got watered down and it became an athletic endeavor. And that's never what it was designed to be. It was designed to open the chakras.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
what I'm trying to help people understand about breath work, which I don't even like that name, and you before the show started, you said something really nice. You said you don't teach breath work, you're a restorative breath coach. You help people recover their breath, restore their breath. And thank you for that because that's true. I
Hmm.
come at it from a brainstem lens, but I had 7 years of breath work coaching under my belt. Started with Wim Hof,
Mm.
then I went to Oxygen Advan or Buteyko, then the Oxygen Advantage. I did some other breathing certifications in between. And then in 2024, I got to go to Phoenix 5 times and study with my original mentor, Lois Laney, who's considered a legend in the neurology world.
Hmm.
And then I said, "Whoa, there's a higher vantage point here." And then, but it answered so many questions for me because the breath work, I put out a really great carousel just like a couple of days ago. It said
Hmm.
why breath work didn't help me.
Hmm.
And, and that's how I'm trying to help people understand, just to give them another tool in their toolbox. It's never to be right or wrong. Instagram is all about rage baiting,
Hmm. Hmm.
and everybody wants to be right because they want followers and likes. I don't care about that. I only care about engagement with the people who are interested in discerning information that resonates with them from what I've said, and then I try to help people from there. But I'm not going to argue with people over things. And
Makes sense. Just starting off with what you said initially at the beginning, with a lot of the practices, whether it's from the East or the West, but, a lot of the practices that came, originally from the East, how interesting is it that so much of the kind of like the original, the authentic teachings just ends up getting watered down, just ends up getting
yeah,
diluted. You lose the kind of like the essence of the teaching, whether that's yoga or qigong. Qigong has kind of like become a kind of like mainstay popular kind of like trend over the past, few years, and it's interesting. It's interesting,
yeah,
especially when you go deeper into, some of these body mind practices that have been around for thousands, for millennia, right?
yeah,
And the authentic purpose of it was completely different from like
right,
actually what's being
yeah,
promoted and marketed towards us.
yeah.
And I know you have I would say a pretty transformational story, from
Mm.
your childhood, from growing up. So I don't know if that's something you're open to sharing, a little bit
Yeah,
about like
sure,
your background growing up, because
yeah,
I guess you didn't come out of the womb perfectly healthy and fit and with a six pack, even though I know you mentioned you had
well.
you could bicep. Yeah, I know you mentioned that you were pretty muscular, but I mean you didn't have the best health conditions growing
No,
up, from what I understood.
no, the six pack was there, except that became my identity,
Hmm.
right? But the truth of who you are is supposed to be a loving human who's living in harmony. And if you're vaccinated at a young age and you're putting all these adjuvants and metals in your body, then you're already predisposed to have issues later in life. And then my mom smoked all through pregnancy because it was 1969
Oh my God.
and she smoked Camels.
Oh,
So,
jeez.
but I mean, look at me, I'm 60 years old or I'm not 60, I'm 56 and a half,
Hmm. You're getting
but
there.
I round up.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, so
um,
your mom spoke through the whole pregnancy. I mean, how did that impact your childhood growing up? I
yeah.
mean,
Well, and then I lived in a one-bedroom apartment in the Bronx, and the Bronx, New York City was bankrupt,
mm,
and it was crime everywhere.
mm,
And nobody had money, not where I lived. So I also lived in a one-bedroom apartment where she smoked all day.
jeez.
So I was just inhaling smoke my whole life
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
18 years.
Oh my
And
God.
anytime I went driving with her in the morning to school, I mean, she was just smoking all the time.
Yeah.
And she passed away at 52.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Not from lung cancer, but from breast cancer, but still,
Yeah.
right? She was toxic.
Right.
And it's not her fault.
Mm.
Her mom smoked
Mm.
all through pregnancy, same
Jeez.
thing in the house, both their parents. So she, she inherited a dirty lymphatic system. And so did I.
Mm.
So I inherited a lineage of unhealthy people. And that's a lot to overcome.
Absolutely.
It's a lot to overcome, but you can do it. And I may never overcome all the stagnation in my body, but that's okay because all that's important to me now is living as beautifully as I can right now. I
Mm.
used to think I wanted to live really long, but that's stress, that's anxiety.
Mm.
I don't even think about tomorrow. I only think about what I need to do now and how
Mm.
I can make um I'm a big believer in Buddhist philosophy. It's not a religion.
Mhm.
And you were talking earlier about stuff getting dumbed down.
Mhm.
And then the Pali Canon was written right after Buddha passed away because Buddha wouldn't let anybody write things down. He
Mhm.
gave 84,000 sermons, teachings, and you were not allowed to write. You had to listen
Mhm.
and you had to feel the vibrations of his words and you gain more out of it. And he said, 500 years after I'm gone, my teachings will not be the same as the way I taught them.
Mhm.
So they immediately tried to write this whole, anthology of the Buddha's teachings, and it's called the Pali Canon, and that's about as close to it as possible.
Mhm.
So I try to live my life in that respect, which I didn't always, Gabriel, because I grew up in the Bronx, and I grew up. I'm going to say this on camera because it's true. I grew up being taught how to hate black people, how
Mhm.
to hate gay people.
Mhm.
I mean, like real hate
Mhm.
because everyone was fighting each other.
Mhm.
And that's a lot to overcome too, but it's part of this whole prison system
Yeah.
that we're under, you know.
Mhm.
And you're born awakened.
Mhm.
You just forget,
Mhm.
and you forget over time due to the trauma that you experience. And that's what I do now is I work with brain stem issues, regulation issues, and they're all caused by trauma.
Makes
So
sense.
from a young age, I was traumatized.
Mhm.
I mean, my mom she was a rough woman, but wasn't her fault. I forgive her. She didn't know what she was doing, but she beat me. She screamed at me. She cursed at me. But they did that back then. You could hit your child out in public. And
Jeez.
she kicked me and punched me.
Jeez, man.
But I saw a lot of parents kicking and punching their kids when I was growing up.
Mhm.
So she also had rings all over her fingers, and she would slap me in the head, and it would hurt like, a lot. And
Mhm.
every time you experience trauma to the head like that, you alter your cranial nerve function, and your cranial nerves are fuses in your brain. And every time you experience shock,
Mhm.
that's shock, the startle response, right?
Mhm.
You alter your brain function. And that's why I work with a lot of raw foodists who
Mhm.
come to me and say, I've been raw for years and I don't feel any better.
Mhm.
Now, they might have reversed some things, but I have a woman in Germany. She's been raw for 6 years. She's had fibromyalgia for 12 years. She hasn't had one bit of respite from eating raw
Mhm.
because the issue's not in your gut, it's in your central nervous system.
Mm.
So some people may have a great experience. I've had a great experience being raw. It helped my gut. It helped clean my interstitial spaces, the tissues in the middle, and maybe in the lymphatic brain too. But once your brain stem is altered, food ain't going to change that. You
Mhm.
can eat all the fruit you want. You're not getting enough electricity from food because, first of all, you're not designed to eat. You have adapted to eat over millennia. We
Mm.
are breatharian in nature. We get
Mm.
everything we need from the sun and our bare feet on the ground.
Mm.
We should be, I mean, again, years have gone by. So people are like, what about your stomach? Well,
Mhm.
those are redundant organs.
Mm.
Anything related to digestion is a redundant organ because it's not considered one of the 5 major organs in Chinese medicine.
Mhm.
So ideally, we should be breatharian, but if you've been eating your whole life, it's almost impossible that
Right.
you will attain that state
Right.
because you would have to get so clean interstitially and your brainstem would have to be functioning at such a high capacity that you would naturally stop eating,
Mm.
not trying to stop.
Right.
It would be a natural progression where all of a sudden, every single day, less and less, you feel less desire to eat certain foods.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know we're both familiar with Tony Wright's work and, the
Oh,
return to
yeah.
yeah, not to go too ahead, but I mean that's kind of like I'm hearing echoes of that kind of like come to my consciousness as you're describing this here.
Yeah.
And Brian, just to kind of like give people a little bit of an understanding, a little background. I mean, so how did, with your childhood, obviously there was some, there was trauma, it wasn't the best, healthiest environment. How did you, I guess, start to transverse or navigate towards like health and fitness, for
Oh my
yourself?
God. What a story. I mean, I've only been raw 7 years.
Okay.
Actually, February 25th is my 7-year anniversary. So, and I'm not fully raw,
Hmm.
which I also don't subscribe to. We could talk about that
Hmm. Hmm.
because I also believe in the middle way,
Hmm.
what Buddha talked about. So I'm not going to cause stress on myself. If I have to go to a restaurant, and the only thing on the menu is a salad and has oil and vinegar on it, I'm
Hmm.
going to eat a salad.
Makes
I'm not
sense.
going to worry about the oil and vinegar.
Yeah.
Because if your kidneys and your liver are healthy, which mine are very strong now, then that's what they're designed to do.
Hmm.
They're designed to keep you healthy and clean, and it only really matters how strong your nervous system is.
Hmm.
But I really didn't start this journey. The health journey started for me when I was about 40.
Hmm.
Actually, not 40. It started about 42 and a half. At 40, I was breaking down. And I'm 56, remember that. So
Right.
when I was 39 or 37, 90% tore my left biceps tendon. 90%.
Okay.
So that was the first catastrophic injury I had. And I had tons of injuries. I wrestled from the age of 14 all the way to 50. So I was just torturing my body for years because you think athletics is good for you. The more in shape you are, the
Right.
longer you live, the more healthy you are. But yet my health was failing.
Right. Right.
So I tore a biceps tendon. And then 2 years later, probably because I was compensating,
Hmm.
I went into Bikram yoga. I started to feel twinges in my back, and they're like the stupidest things I could possibly ever listen to. And I listened to it back then. They're like, "Oh, if your back hurts, it's normal. Everybody's back hurts in Bikram." But I wasn't aware of that stuff yet because I was still lifting weights
Hmm.
and I was still wrestler in my mind. I was still aggressive and defensive. And I thought, okay, I could take pain. That's my job.
Right. Right.
Wrestlers, you're always taking pain.
Yeah. Whatever. No
You're
pain, no gain. Right.
yeah. Yeah. And so my back started to get worse. And then I had a moment. I was stepping off the bus with packages and I misjudged the step, when that happens and you go, oh, and you catch yourself. And I
Right.
heard it go in my body. And I was like, and I seized up. And from that moment on, I was debilitated, but yet I went to work every day and
Jeez.
I trained 8 people a day and I was stretching them. I had to. I had to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And
You were
everyone's
you were
like,
coaching, training.
yeah, I've been a
Okay.
personal trainer or I've sort of gravitated out of that unless I get athletes.
Mhm.
Then I do like retreats with athletes and I teach them how to move, how to breathe, how to activate their brainstem. So everyone was begging me, go get operated on,
Mhm.
get an MRI, got an MRI. And they were like, wow, you have a lot of compression in your spine and an S1 and L5, it's degenerated and you've herniated it. And they were telling me I had 2 degenerated discs in other parts of my spine.
Mhm.
And they were like, you need to get these operated on. And this was coming from my son's stepdad,
Okay.
who's one of the leading orthopedic surgeons in America.
Okay.
And he's like, man, people with your kind of MRI, they're begging me to operate. And I was like,
Shoot.
Eric, I feel you. I get
Mhm.
it, but I got the feeling that if a starfish can regrow its leg
Mhm.
and you could take out half a person's liver and it grows back,
Mhm.
why would the establishment tell you that the liver can grow back, but then make you believe other things can? Right?
Right, right. Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, come on.
Yeah.
Everybody should be thinking the same thing.
Right.
Even with illness,
Yeah.
respiratory illness. Did all the homeless people in New York City die on the streets? No.
Oh,
There's
we're going
homeless
there.
people.
We're going there.
There's homeless people everywhere living
Yeah.
in this freezing cold weather. Are they
Yeah.
sick?
Mhm.
Do they have fevers? Are they
Mhm.
having respiratory issues while they're out on the streets?
Mhm.
No. And we would say, if you're homeless, you're unhealthy, but yet they're not sick in the
Mhm.
moment,
Mhm.
right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
our
Yeah.
bodies are very resilient. They're very strong. They're
Yeah.
made to live forever. Your DNA. I mean, Dr. Lipton proved this.
Mhm.
Dr. Lipton, the biology of belief. He
Mhm. Mhm.
proved it in the lab in the late 60s. And then Stanford took his tenure away because he was trying to teach that, wait a minute, under the right environment, the cell thrives.
Mm.
There's no aging of the cell if the environment, which the environment is obviously not even this environment,
Mm.
it's what you inhale,
Mhm.
what you ingest, and what you think.
Mm.
And then your internal environment will damage your cell epigenetically. So I was like, I'm not going to get operated on. He's like, all right, I wish you luck.
Mm. He's like, this guy's screwed.
Yeah. So for 2.5 years, I anguished, and I was 2.5 years. I was just miserable. And then a trainer friend of mine said, hey, have you ever heard of anatomy trains? And I was like, no. So I looked into it and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I don't know much about fascia. They're
Mm.
saying things on a level that seems to be higher than what I'd been taught in my phys ed degree and
Mhm.
my training certifications.
Mhm.
So I went to Boston, Cape Cod, actually, and I took a 2-day course. It was like 6 hours a day or 8 hours a day. And I was miserable. I was hurting. I was just doing simple movements and my back would seize up.
Mhm.
So I said to the instructor, I said, Eli, should I come to Boston as often as I can to visit you for work? He said, I have a better idea. There's a master instructor in New York City, in Manhattan, that you could start seeing. So
Nice.
her name is Simone Lindner, and she's on 81st and First. And I started seeing her, and she was like, the first, this happens to me a lot. The first session, she worked on me. At the end of the session, she was very sweet. First, she said all these beautiful things about me. Then she started to talk about what she saw. But
Okay.
they always paint the picture of health first.
Right,
Oh, I
right.
see you're muscular. You're handsome. You have nice, clear eyes, things like that. And then she started to work on me, and as she would work on me, she would just bring up what she's noticing. And
Mhm.
then at the end of the session, she said, Bryan, you really need to see me regularly because we have to work on releasing your tissues. She said, you have the tightest fascia I have ever touched. Now, and I didn't know what that meant
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I was just learning. So I
Mhm.
went, cool. And she goes, no, Bryan, not cool. Because I was like a rock. My legs were gigantic. And
Mhm.
if you touch them, you would hurt your finger. Literally,
Mhm.
people were like, oh my God, your legs are like a rock. And I was like, that's right. But that's how I felt. That's right. Like all that hardness
Mhm.
is internal tension. And that tension is draining your life, your vitality.
Mhm.
And this is what people don't understand. You see people on Instagram all the time, these old men, they're deadlifting 5 plates, they're in their 60s. Good luck.
Right.
There will come a time where your body will act out.
Mhm.
No doubt about it.
Mhm.
You're not going to
Mhm.
be doing that when you're 80 and 90. And
Mhm.
in fact, it'll probably lead to you not living that long.
Mhm.
So I started seeing her for about 6 months, and she said, you know, my business partner here in the office is a chiropractor, and he does healthy brain living, subconscious reprogramming.
Mhm.
And again, I didn't know anything like that. He was a
Right, right.
network chiropractor.
Oh,
And I
man.
went, okay, I'll start seeing him because I'm getting help with you. So I started seeing him, and 6 months went by. So that's now a year. So now I'm a year into my healing journey, and my back is still killing me.
Mhm.
And he says to me after 6 months, 8 months go by, he's like, Bryan, there's nothing wrong with your back anymore. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm in pain all the time. He's like, well, I'm trying to tell you that your discs have moved back into place and your spine is healed. Your discs are healed. This is more of a emotional component. And now I was under the impression since that moment that your body stores emotions, that your fascia stores emotions. And I'm not under that impression anymore, because now when I look at it from a neurological point of view, the emotion creates a frequency. And what they're reading is the frequency of the emotion that caused the body to shut down. Not because your emotions are stored there. Just because you have an emotional release when you do work doesn't mean you're getting rid of it. It actually means you're reliving the trauma. But
This is so interesting.
there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of people out there that will not agree with me,
Right, right.
because now everyone's getting on the bandwagon. Oh, your emotions are stored in your body.
Mhm.
And now what Lois has taught me is, well, no, you're neurological. Everything is neurological. And the emotion created a reflex loop. And then you didn't process that emotion. So your body got stuck in that neurological setting. So the neurons and the brain neurons, they lose capacity. You lose the ability to regulate pressure. Your breath is going to speed up. It's going to become more shallow because neurologically, you're not functioning at the capacity you used to be. Not because you have a feeling of inadequacy in your body, but he was reading that. So now 3 more months after that. So now I'm a year and a half into the journey about,
Mhm.
and he goes, sit on the, I was like, sit my back, my back. He's like, sit on the table. He's like, turn to your right. So I was like this, hold up your arm. And they do applied kinesiology,
Mhm.
which is
Like muscle
muscle
testing.
testing.
Yeah, muscle
Yeah.
testing, yeah.
Well, it works because
Mhm.
I also do Psyche. I'm an advanced practitioner of Psyche, and that's subconscious reprogramming. And I use muscle testing, and
Very
I do it
cool.
on myself all the time. So he goes, okay, the feeling I'm getting is inadequacy. And
Mhm.
immediately when he said the feeling, I said, I know what that is. My mother made me feel inadequate my whole life.
Mhm.
She told me I was going to never grow up to be anything. I'd be a piece of shit. I mean, at a young age,
Mhm.
5, 6, 7, that's when Dr. Lipton says your subconscious is being formed. Everything's being formed from 0 to 7.
You're in
So I
theta
had a
state
mom.
till 7,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a mom who was constantly degrading me and demeaning me. So what the chiropractor was reading was that emotion is a frequency. It's not stored in your body.
Mhm.
It's an energy imprint. That's different than being stored.
Mhm.
You're not
Mhm.
holding on to emotions. You can't do that.
Mhm.
But the frequency is imprinted into your nervous system, like your toroidal field. So your toroidal field comes out of your solar plexus. It goes around, goes out your crown chakra. It comes back under your root. Then it
Mhm.
goes down through your root and back into your crown, and it creates this energy field around you.
Mhm.
So if the energy field is strong, I think the Heart Math Institute says it can go 30 feet.
It's incredible.
30
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah.
But if you have these energy imprints on you, it dampens your field.
Mhm.
So maybe over here, there's an energy spinning the frequency of inadequacy,
Mhm.
right? The frequency, because you're an energy being, you're
Mhm.
not physical.
Mhm.
So this frequency is spinning maybe in the wrong direction. So when you can clear that frequency, then your field starts to increase vibration and frequency. So
Makes
that's what
sense.
we're doing. So he made me put my hand on my head, my hand on my liver for
Hmm.
anger.
Hmm.
And he recited this beautiful mantra for me. It was a page long. And then he left me there for 5 minutes. And he came back and he goes, okay, move your hands. He goes, turn to your right. And without thinking about it, I went like this. And I looked at him and I was like,
Wow, this
and
is
I was
amazing.
like, oh my God. My pain was instantly gone,
It's incredible.
just gone.
It's amazing.
But that was only the beginning.
Oh my God. So this is like the tip of the iceberg right here.
That was the tip of the iceberg, because what he didn't tell me was that my body was failing. My organs were failing.
Mm.
My hips were failing. My spine, I wrestled. No wrestler on the planet has a good spine. You give yourself scoliosis. He said, when you came in here, you had horrific scoliosis, but you don't tell somebody like that. You don't
Right.
tell people that you're effed up. You try to make them believe that they can heal, they can
Right.
change. You don't tell the brainstem that there's something wrong with it. Lois believes the same thing.
Hmm.
You don't speak bad about yourself. You don't say, I'm stupid. You don't say things like that. You don't say, oh, I suck at writing. You can't say things like that.
Mm.
It damages you.
Mm.
So from that moment, I was hooked. But now, 13 years later, and now with all my brainstem health, I'm reversing scoliosis, and my spine is getting straighter and straighter because I'm alleviating these frequency patterns. I'm increasing my vibration, which means my brainstem is able to regulate pressure.
Mm.
Inside your body, your interstitial spaces are affected by pressure. So in the raw world, we call it acids, but
Mm.
acids are gases. And I love Dr. Morris and I love all those people, but they're not always correct. And I'm sorry for people out there, but it's become a cult-like thing. They're again, they're dumbing down the information, and now they're like, no, you have to eat raw. You can only eat fruit.
Mm.
That's ridiculous.
Well, talk to me about that, because obviously you had your own health and healing journey with nutrition, and then obviously you started to kind of intersect from that. So it's very interesting because I think that some people know, they know you as kind of like the restorative breathing guy. Some people are like, oh, is he the raw guy? So like, kind of like, how did you even get
Mm.
into that? And then how did you now start to, I guess, create the divergence from that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, okay. Great question, Gabriel. So 2 years ago, I started with Lois's program, and it had already been 5 years into my fruit and breath journey. Breath was a little bit about a year and a quarter before the raw journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd already started on breathing, and the breathing, they think that you can eat an alkaline diet. Like when you eat an alkaline diet, your body becomes alkaline. No.
Mm.
Food does not change the alkalinity of your blood. It changes the alkalinity of your interstitial spaces. There's a difference. Just like there's an enteric nervous system, which is your gut, and there's a central nervous system, which is your brainstem.
Mm-hmm.
So they're coming at it from a very strong place, but not the highest place, which is neurological, which is energy. So after 5 years of training breathing and being raw, I still couldn't sleep, not well at all. I'd been insomniac for 25 years because of all the brain trauma, being
Mm-hmm.
choked.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have I been choked in
Jeez,
my
man.
life?
Oh my God. Jeez.
Like for 30 straight years I wrestled. So just the trauma, I mean, is incredible.
Yeah.
So and my HRV was 5 to 15 milliseconds.
Oh
And
my
at the
God.
age of, so I'm 56 now, so like at 48, 49, I mean, my energy levels were gone. That's why when I went to the acupuncturist, they were like, guys like you have a heart attack in your 60s and die. That was 10 years ago.
Mm.
And I was like, what? Look at me. I was like,
Yeah.
look at my body. What are you
I'm fit.
talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right? That's all I ever knew. I thought
Yeah.
if I'm lean, then I must be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the doctor and they give you, and I haven't been to I hadn't had a physical in years, but prior, my physicals are always great. Oh, your blood pressure's great, your blood's fine, but yet, why don't I feel good?
Hmm.
Because they don't know how to look at anything in Western in Western medicine. They're completely bankrupt of
Right.
any kind of morality, even. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, but if it's acute, yes, and we still would need to use drugs for acute injuries. But when it comes to chronic stuff, they're
Hmm.
morally bankrupt. They can't help you at all, and they know that. So I all my most important markers for longevity were terrible. Breath work didn't help me, and going raw didn't help me. And like I said, I have a friend, I'm not going to name names, even say the gender, but this person has been raw their entire life.
Hmm.
And when we started working together doing both, this person was not breathing well at all, and they were having trouble too. They realized that there were moments in their life where they were anxious, they didn't feel well. And they've been raw their whole life, except for certain moments when they were growing up and the parents forced them to eat certain things.
Hmm.
But once they were autonomous, they've been raw for 20 straight years and
Wow.
nothing but fruit, nothing but fruit. But yet,
Wow.
20 years later of being on nothing but fruit, they're having trouble getting out of bed. They're not breathing well. I can hear them breathing. They're apically breathing because it's your central nervous system that governs that, not your gut. So I was like, wow, this is really interesting. So when I started on my program in January of 2024, Lois, I just said, okay, I'm going to listen to you, because she put me on a $9,000 Capno trainer that tested my blood gases, my HRV, the tonality in my hum, and my breaths per minute. And they were all pretty bad, even though I'd been training. So I just said, okay, I'm going to stop everything I'm doing, and I'm only going to do what you teach me. So for 8 months, I only did these brain activation exercises, and they're so simple.
Hmm.
People would be like, this doesn't work. Well, come on, you're going to tell me you're looking at something coming at your face and that's going to change you? But neurologically, we know yes, because you have cranial nerves that do these things. How do you think how do you think somebody catches a ball? Your cranial nerves say, oh, there's something converging on me. I have
Hmm.
to have an impulse to catch it or to block it. It's your cranial nerves that are regulating that, not your gut.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I stopped doing everything. I stayed raw, but I stopped doing everything. And lo and behold, 8 months later, she puts me on the machine. My HRV's gone up about 15 points. Not bad. Now it's up about, so from the bottom, now I can hover anywhere between 35 and 70. So
Hmm.
that's good, because your HRV is always going to dip. And if for people out there who don't know what HRV is, it's actually your measure of resiliency, and it's your measure of longevity. And your HRV, no matter what age you are, should be 80 and above. Now
It
I'm
just
only,
for just for
go
clarity, is
ahead.
there like a range or scale for it?
Yeah, well, when they're testing people and they do all these tests, remember, they're not, or I haven't said this yet, but they're not testing the brainstem. They're only testing you and what your HRV is in the moment, but they
Hmm.
don't know. Everyone says, well, do certain breathing exercises to increase your HRV. But again, I don't want to have to do breathing exercises for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I stopped doing breathing, and everything went up because I was now working on my central nervous system. But now I know that I work on people's central nervous system, and I teach them foundational breathing exercises to get them off of having to do the breathing. So everything happens faster now than I've ever seen before in what I've been doing.
Hmm.
People can get off breathing exercises. They can make changes even if they're not lean, even if they're heavy.
Hmm.
I've helped people who are not raw. I'm like, if you don't want to go raw, don't. Eat
Hmm.
whatever you want. You're still going to get a lot of benefit out of this, because we're going to work on your central nervous system. And we work on your central nervous system, people start to lose weight naturally. They start to stop eating things naturally, because the only reason they were governed into that was because energetically they were running loops
Hmm.
in their mind. And I'm going to give you a great example, because this is huge for me. I have a student, he's 26 years old. He was born with the cord around his neck, and he had brain damage his whole life. and he had lots of falls because he was never, you know, what they would consider to be normal. And he has to sleep in his parents' bedroom. His parents are lovely people. They take great care of him. I've been working with him for 4.5 months. And in the middle, he actually had to have surgery to have something removed, not in a bad way,
Mhm.
to get him off of something. And so that set us back almost a month because he was really struggling after that because they had to intubate him. And when
Oh,
you get intubated, you're going to mess up your breathing
mhm.
because your body is sensing that something down your throat. And it doesn't matter if you're under anesthesia, your body's experiencing a threat, a survival.
Mhm.
So it's going to lock down your airway if you've ever been intubated. So I had to help him get out of that. But then just last week, he said to me, Gabriel, this is shocking. He said to me, I realize now, let me also preface it. His kid couldn't talk. When he would talk to me, when I first met him, he would say, "Hey, Brian, I watch your videos on your platform, and I'm breathing with Brian, and I love it. And you said, and you say to breathe in the air, and then I couldn't even understand him. His mom could, but I loved him immediately. I
Mhm.
just loved him immediately. He was just a beautiful man, young man, and now he's speaking not all the time, but
Mhm.
he's starting to speak sentences without doing that. And he said to me very clearly, Brian, I realize that I get stuck in loops and I can't get
Mm.
out of it. I'm like, but you're realizing it. He goes,
Mhm.
yes. So he realizes that he gets stuck in a loop. He can't get out of it, but now he realizes that it's happening. So I have him do certain things in his
Right.
mouth,
Right.
and I'll tell him to spit out things like salt, and he'll go, and he
Mm.
can't stop the spitting.
Right. Right.
Meanwhile, he would have already cleaned his mouth, but now he's
Mhm.
stuck in this. So
Mhm.
that's one of these reflex loops. And he's like, but now he's starting to be aware that it's happening. And I was like, wow. I don't
Jeez.
teach him any breathing because he can't. I can't have him slow down his breathing
Mhm.
because neurologically that doesn't work. It actually would make him feel worse. So, and then there's a lot of people, breathing instructors out there that know that. Yeah, like, yeah, why? When I ask people to breathe slower, they feel worse. Not
Mhm.
everybody, but some people who are really stuck in those loops. So now he's waking up. His brain is coming back to life. He's
Mhm.
starting to actually tell his parents what he wants to do and initiate things on his own,
So
right? But
just to clarify,
go ahead,
so
please.
if there's no breathing exercises being taught or performed, then I guess what's the process that you walk them through? Because it sounds like, from what I understood, it sounds like number one, there was kind of like an awareness switch that was turned on for this particular student. Like it's kind of like, well, like they say, right? Awareness is the first step to transformation, right? You can't change what you're not aware of. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like the first thing that I heard. It's like, okay, it sounds like he just became aware of a process that's been going on, a feedback loop, a loop system. And now with that awareness, it's kind of like there's almost like kind of like power, potential, or ownership being able to. And I'm not sure if I'm understanding this. Is there like a new feedback loop that's being created, or is there just a discardment of the old paradigm? Like, I guess, what's the process?
Bingo right there. It's not a new feedback loop. It's a discardment of the old process, and then your DNA knows what to do.
Makes sense. Okay.
Your
Okay.
DNA doesn't matter. Even if you're a killer, you weren't born a killer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Epigenetics.
Yep.
You were
Yep.
not born a serial killer. It happened to you. You
Mm.
know, those are reflex loops running in those people's minds. So yeah, you can reestablish the neuronal connections in your brainstem because you have 12 cranial nerves, 12 on the left, 12 on the right. When people say, oh, do same side, block your nose. When you inhale out of the left, it activates your right hemisphere. No, everything on the head is same side. Right nose, right brain, right eye, right brain, right ear, right brain, right mouth, right brain. Because you have 12 on the left, 12 on the right. So they're switchboards and they conduct electricity and they speak to each other. And there's 93 functional possibilities that make up a septillion amount of possibilities. So when you reestablish these connections and you recreate the right synapses, and you give the brainstem the right information, the brainstem starts to come back online. You start to increase your capacity. Your body starts to regulate pressure, which means you start to soften because that loop was the tension.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to soften, and your breath becomes deeper. So you don't have to teach somebody how to breathe. You establish, because breathing is structure. It can create structure. It can alter structure, but it's also function.
Mm-hmm.
But the function of how you breathe is determined by your brainstem. Because if we're breathing apically, right, we can create bad structure. We can create a bad posture through breath. But the breath created that because the function wasn't correct. So you can reestablish this. And this is why I'm healing still. This is what I'm seeing in him. And then I have just many, many students now who are just having really life-transforming experiences. But it takes time. In fact, in 2 days, Gabriel, it'll be my 2-year anniversary where I've been doing these brainstem activations every single day. I have not missed one day because Lois said to me, this is the wrestler in me. She said to me, neurologically, if you do it every single day, you get the most amount of benefit. So what happens is my capacity was at nothing. My heart rate variability reflected that. My end-tidal carbon dioxide levels reflected that I had no life in my body. So it takes a lot of energy and a lot of dedication to get the car rolling up the hill.
Build the momentum, so to speak.
Build the momentum. So you don't want to stop. You don't want to take a day off. But if you need to, if you do, it's also not a problem. But let's just look at it. If I'm rolling along and I'm building energy, but then I stop for a day, I might stall. But if I stop for 2 days, I'm starting to drift like a hang glider now. I'm starting to come down like a hot air balloon.
Right.
And then I go back, but now I got to go from here to where I was and then back up.
It makes sense.
So I'm going to have to regain what I lost when I started to stall. And it takes 4 months for one neurological cycle to happen. And in that neurological cycle, you regrow new red blood cells through your bone marrow.
So you at this point you've gone through 6 cycles of that. Okay. I mean that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So 6 times of actually going.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, I still have issues.
Well, that's basically the heart of what I want to get to, because it sounds like ultimately this process is not, like you've mentioned multiple times already, it's not about you teaching anything per se. It's really a discardment process of like shedding the trauma, the conditioning, the how the Taoists would say, the acquired mind, right? The 10,000 things, right? And actually revealing the innate natural intelligence that's driving our life forward.
Bingo.
Out of curiosity, I'll go back to breathing in just a second, but I got the sense here, and I want to respect obviously the boundaries here. Definitely a shift I feel from kind of like wanting to, I guess, talk about the benefits of kind of like plant-based nutrition versus more I kind of like feeling like, yes, like restorative breathing, like brainstem, where like diet is important, nutrition is helpful, but it's kind of like it's just a piece of the puzzle. That's kind of what at least that's what I sense from you.
It's a piece of the puzzle. But let's talk about that because I'm still raw. I still believe that I should be eating raw food 95% of the time.
Gotcha.
And that's because my organs were failing. When the acupuncturist said that to me, it's because she couldn't feel my heart, my kidney, and my liver pulse. She's like, oh boy. And now 10 years later, after that, my acupuncturist is like, the second one, he said to me, I know I told you that you shouldn't go raw. He's like, but what you've done with your organs is nothing short of remarkable. And that happened in 1 year. Jeez. So in 1 year of being raw, I was able to clean the interstitial spaces. So I was able to clean out all the gases, the acids out of my body, not all of them. Right. But I was able to get rid of a lot to take the stress and the pressure off of the internal space around my organs.
Hmm.
And now through the brainstem activation, you can get stronger and stronger and stronger because that's your natural ability. I mean, Tai Chi masters, there's an ancient Chinese proverb that says, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So it means all you're defensive. You can be offensive because if you have to defend yourself, that's fight or flight. That's the sympathetic nervous system. But otherwise, we're not supposed to be in the sympathetic nervous system. And this is what people don't understand. They think that their workouts, oh, I have to kill myself. I have
Hmm.
to push myself. I want to drive my sympathetic drive. But you don't know if your vitality is supporting your sympathetic drive.
Mm.
Did the Buddha do that? No, but he walked a lot. He
Hmm.
walked for 50 years. He never stopped. He just kept walking from one place to the other and teaching for 50 years. And he would teach till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Hmm.
And then he would sleep a little bit, 2 hours a night, because he was alive. He wasn't eating cooked food. If he was, I'm guessing it was probably very, very little amounts
Hmm.
because they weren't using food for sustenance. They were using food for pleasure.
Mm.
We use food for pleasure constantly.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, that's the main culture. Yeah, yeah.
But
It's almost like it's a drug.
yeah, it's totally a drug. And at this moment, I'm still addicted to food. I want to eat. I
Mm.
want to eat my watermelon every day, my honeydews every day, my cantaloupe every day. I don't want to be breatharian. I want to eat. I enjoy eating. And I'm going to continue to eat. And maybe one day, like I said earlier, if something starts to shift,
Sure.
I'm going to move into the vibration that my higher self is guiding me towards.
I guess looking back at like the let's see. So 42 is kind of like the beginning. So now you're at 56. So let's say the past 14, 15 years, 15 years, would there be a kind of like hierarchy of health? That could include nutrition. It could include exercise. It could include breathing. Like if there was a hierarchy, where would you start? Like, what would you teach yourself? Like, all right, you're 42, you're the doctor now talking to yourself. Like, what would be that hierarchy of like, let's start with level 1, we're going to go to level 2, here's level 3, and then we can get to level 4. If that's something you've ever thought about.
Yeah, I would like to start off with another little anecdote. I have a client in Germany, and this person has had fibromyalgia for 12 years. And like I said, they went raw 6 years ago, and nothing changed. And now they've been working with me. They've been doing the brainstem trainings for about 4 months. Her fibromyalgia pains have not gotten better. In fact, sometimes they're worse. But she said to me, Bryan, I'm now having a regular period. And for the first time in 6 years of being raw, I'm getting kidney filtration in my
Mm.
urine. Never did that happen. So her fibromyalgia is not getting any better, but she's now eliminating. So the brainstem is saying the most important thing we need to do is eliminate,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? The
Right.
most important thing you need to do is eliminate. The neurological drive to breathe is to exhale, not to inhale. People are like, oh, come on, you breathe in oxygen. No, but you have to remove the excess carbon dioxide to signal oxygen to release. It's not the amount of air you breathe in, it's the amount of carbon dioxide you can retain. So elimination, that's why there's 2 lungs,
Mm-hmm.
that's why there's 2 kidneys, and that's why your skin is the largest organ on your body, because we're designed to eliminate.
To release. Right.
So she's having these great occurrences, but the fibromyalgia issue is more rooted in the brainstem and the nerves, and that's going to take a while. I don't know how long. You
Right.
just have to keep plugging along. Lois would say to me, she's like, well, if you've struggled with sleep for 25 years, conceivably, it could take 25 years to cure itself. And I was like, whoa.
Wow.
But I started sleeping better 8 weeks into the process. And now I'm getting good sleep scores, not great sleep scores, because again, my brain has been through a lot.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
the hierarchy would be, you have to work on your brainstem because that establishes the capacity, the energy necessary for you to eliminate. And
Mm.
once you can eliminate, then you can absorb nutrients. So my whole life I was jacked and lean,
Mm-hmm.
but now I realize I wasn't absorbing nutrients. I was just putting all of those gases and acids into fat cells, muscle cells to keep them away from my vital organs. But then it came to a point where that wasn't happening.
Right, right.
That's why I was, a candidate for a heart attack in my 60s. And now my acupuncturist is like, oh, you're going to live a long and healthy life. You're in your organs are in fantastic shape. I go, but can they get better? He said, yes, you can still improve your liver and kidney function. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to keep working towards that.
Well, it's
right?
it's kind of like the cycle we live in. Like, you're working on improving and optimizing and obviously creating these health standards, but at the same time, you kind of alluded to it. Like we live in a culture in a world that is not predicated on health. It's actually basically profits off of disease, and people who aren't unhealthy. So it's kind of like we're moving, we're improving, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, we're getting bombarded, by chemicals
Right.
and toxins and all
Right.
this.
So don't shoot yourself in the foot.
Right.
So the
Right.
hierarchy would be, let's build the capacity. Let's learn the fundamentals of breath. And then let's start transitioning properly into a raw lifestyle, or at least a 80-20 lifestyle, right? It
Okay.
doesn't have to be 100%.
Okay.
So I did it the opposite way.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I went breath, food, brainstem, but it should be brainstem, breath, food. But if you do them all together, even better.
Even
So
better.
when I teach people, I teach them to do it all together. But
Where does exercise and movement fall in that hierarchy for you? Is that also just like kind of like just daily movement? I've
you,
heard you say before that,
you
well,
notice I didn't mention that.
I did notice that. And I know that you've been a lifelong athlete and, you've been wrestling and teaching wrestling for a long time. And at the same time, I know you've also mentioned that, the people who tend to live the shortest, sometimes are athletes. So that's interesting as well, especially with the high stress level, curious what you think about that.
Right. So I would say all you need to do is walk every day in your life. I like to exercise.
Mhm.
I'm going to continue to exercise. I like to have muscles on my body, but my muscles are also getting more pliable, more
Mm.
resilient. And I don't want more muscles. I just want them to be fast and
Mhm.
efficient, like a cheetah,
Mhm.
right? Because the animals have no problem doing what they need to do pretty much until the day they die. Female animals can give birth till the day they die.
Mhm.
They don't have any trouble
Mhm.
procreating,
Mhm.
right? So I think exercise is fourth. I think you need exercise, but you don't need nearly as much as what we've been taught. And I've curtailed my exercise. I exercise to the point where I can continuously breathe through my nose. I
Mhm.
will never mouth breathe during exercise. I will never push myself into that stratosphere because I'm
Mhm.
not a competitive athlete, and that would be taxing myself. So I exercise because it makes me feel good. I enjoy it, but I don't work to the point where I'm feeling exhausted. As soon as I'm starting to get tired, I stop.
Fascinating. Fascinating. That's
Yeah.
basically
And I never did that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's basically the opposite of what you grew up doing for so
Yeah.
long.
I'm unlearning everything I've ever learned, Gabriel.
I definitely acknowledge that because it's not an easy thing, especially with regards to such a fundamental process like breathing, like the respiratory system, yet so conditioned, which is basically, I mean, that's what this conversation has been mainly about is removing those layers that cloud kind of like our natural processes.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. But honestly, I've done a lot of podcasts. I think that this is the best podcast I've done ever because you're asking questions that are allowing me to say things that really get deep, and I've never extrapolated like this before. And it's just because the more trial and error you have, the more wisdom you have. And I really feel like now I'm coming to a real understanding of the processes, even like how you asked the hierarchy.
Mm.
Those are great questions. People need to hear these kinds of things because there's a lot of people out there suffering, and we don't need to suffer. We can actually change all of that. And I see it happen every day.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Brian. And, I appreciate the opportunity to, to speak with you about this. I think it's something that personally I've learned a lot from your interviews that you've done on different podcasts, different channels. And I think you're absolutely right
Thank you.
that, yeah, thank you. I think you're absolutely right with the state of world or state of culture that
Yeah.
we live in, it again, it is not conducive towards vitality. You know, you've
Yeah.
mentioned certain words that deeply resonate with me, especially coming over from a lot of the Eastern traditions, Taoism, Buddhism. I mean, Taoism, the main heart of Taoism was about, longevity, which was not their main goal,
Hmm.
but it was, a big part of their goal because when you have a long life, when a long, healthy life, well, you can do a lot more fun stuff with a lot of the
Yeah.
mental and the emotional and the,
Yeah.
psychological faculties, which most of us, we just don't access. You mentioned the brainstem, I'm curious kind of like how some of the other organs like pineal gland or, other key organs that most of us we don't even talk about them, because we're so focused on, oh, we got to just train more, we got to exercise, oh, we got to just track our macros or hit our calories and things like that. Which, yes, there's a time and place. Yes, I think that definitely with the epidemics that we see with of and disease and all this stuff, there's a starting place for everybody. And I think for you, I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds like fitness was your starting place at 14 when you started going into wrestling, having kind of like an avenue to kind of like channel emotions
Yeah.
and your experiences. I can definitely relate in my
Mm.
early 20s, late teens, needing a way to kind of like channel all that suppressed rage, all the experiences, that I had
Yeah.
in childhood. And I guess that's where we all start. We have that starting place, and then, you know, depending on the growth mindset, the fixed mindset, it's like, do we grow from that? Or do we stay stuck in that? Do we stay stagnant in it? Like,
Mm.
kind of like this stagnant chi in the body. Do we just like stay
Yes.
stuck with that blockage? Do
Yes.
we stay stuck? And it's like, and we hold on to it. We love to hold on to the things that, often cause us the most pain, which is an
Yeah.
unfortunate truth about us.
Yeah. You're saying is that's beautifully said. Really beautiful because it is about chi. It's about prana. And the chi and the prana come from here, not from here.
Mm,
The brainstem is what allows you to breathe slower and deeper. And then your nose will maximize nitric oxide production. And nitric oxide is what the oxygen binds to and gets pulled in through your alveoli and then into your blood. So it's not about how much air you're breathing in, it's about how softly and gently your system can expand. So my anecdote is that you have a fish bowl that's clear, there's nothing in it except water and
mm,
one fish.
mm,
You look down at the bowl and you can see the whole body breathe of the fish. You can see the whole body breathe,
mm.
the whole thing, because the fish is pressure regulated. It can inhale fully and exhale, not fully. I don't mean inhale fully, because your
Right,
lungs are never 100%.
right.
You don't want to stretch your lungs 100%. And a lot of people do that too. They're like, fill your lungs with air. You don't want to stretch your lungs.
Mm,
If you're exercising, your lungs are going to get stretched, but ultimately, they're also like the heart muscle. If you stretch them too much, they wear out. This is why excessive exercise, athletes don't live longer lives than the average person. So, yeah, I had no chi. 10 years ago, I had no chi left. I
mm.
had used all of my life force energy in 46 years. I
Jeez.
mean, literally, they were like, you know, I mean, the acupuncturist was telling me my organs were terrible. The chiropractor was telling me my spine was terrible, and now I've reversed all of that, but there's still work to do because the healing journey never ends. A Tai Chi master who's living that warrior in a garden would not
Mm.
wouldn't say, "Oh, you could stop what you're doing."
Right, right.
No, they still do their practices. They still do their Tai Chi and Qigong every day. They keep cultivating that energy.
Mm.
And when you're cultivating that energy, you can live a long and healthy and harmonious life. But your brainstem determines if you can harness that energy properly,
It
if
makes
you can
sense.
optimize it.
Right, right. Makes sense. Makes sense. And obviously, I mean, this has led to a culmination of your life's work now, where now you're
Yeah.
helping people restore their breathing patterns, not teaching them, but, just allowing them to reaccess those patterns again for themselves. I guess if, as we start to wrap up here in the last few questions here, I mean, is there any commonalities that you've noticed show up? I mean, you've worked with thousands of people, some of the highest level athletes, CEOs, top leaders in every field. Are there any commonalities that you notice as like patterns in these different populations?
Everyone is unique, and your brainstem is like your thumbprint. It's like your fingerprint, but
Mm,
you can change that fingerprint. Whereas this fingerprint is set for life, I can I can change the fingerprint of my brainstem. So the commonalities are really unique,
mm,
but most people have an inability to regulate pressure, but the way they would say it is, I feel anxious, I can't sleep, I can't stop smoking, and that's an inability to regulate pressure. So when you're pressurized, you're doing things to try to make yourself feel better. So they're actually safety mechanisms. You're not addicted to the food or the drugs. Your body's actually trying to feed you what it thinks you need
Mm.
because you can't regulate pressure, and then you get stuck in that neurological loop. But I don't know the commonalities. Everyone, I in the 8 years I've been teaching breathing, I've only met two good breathers.
And I heard you mention that
Two,
before. Yeah, I mean,
two.
that's crazy. That's a,
Everybody I work with, when I take them through a breathing assessment, you know, I teach them. I don't just assess their breathing during the assessment. I'm and now giving you the foundations and the knowledge, and everybody, you get to record it. So now you're getting the foundations and the knowledge. And then you're like, whoa. I mean, I had somebody the other day say, oh, I'm diaphragmatically breathing and I've been practicing breathing for a long
mm,
time. But when you take yourself out of the practice and you just do it normally and you assess them, all of that stuff comes up. And then they were like,
mm,
oh, wow. Because they thought they were breathing diaphragmatically, but when they inhaled, there was only a quarter of an inch movement
mm,
in the rib cage. That's pressurized. So now breath work will say, you'll have people saying, breathe in, open your ribs, stretch your fascia, move over in your muscles. That might give you some relief, but it's not going to restore the function that determines the way you're supposed to breathe.
makes
And
sense.
that's why people don't get the relief they're looking for, which was me. 5 years of breath training, and I didn't get the relief I was looking for. And I got a few master instructors that tell me the same thing.
Mm. Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's because of trauma,
right.
physical and emotional trauma. That's what it's from.
And my,
Chemical,
yeah,
physical, and emotional trauma.
a combination of all of them. Makes sense. And my understanding, this is probably a more nuanced, layered process where it's not like, obviously, it's not a one and done quick fix where it's like, oh, just do this and you're good to go. Obviously, this is multi-layered. It's multifactorial. There's a process here. But is there, I guess, for the listeners, for the viewers here, is there, if someone had to, if you had the opportunity to just share one technique or one tip, what
Hmm.
could someone start with regards to restorative breathing?
Yeah, amazing. So you can go out and you can buy an essential oil, all natural nasal stick,
Okay.
and you can start off by just single side nostril breathing.
Okay. So you
Because
just
when
put
you,
the stick right
yeah,
here. Okay.
yeah, well, I do that, but some people have small nostrils. So I don't want to use my hands, so I'll
Sure.
just breathe like this.
Okay.
But when I'm watching TV at night, this is what I do.
Okay.
I literally keep one side blocked because when your brain senses that you can only breathe out of one side, normally you would think, well, that's going to make me breathe harder and faster.
Mm-hmm.
But the brainstem goes, wait a minute, I don't want to breathe in hard and fast because that's stress to the lungs, especially when you mouth breathe. When you
Mm.
mouth breathe, you're stressing your lungs because you're getting no benefits whatsoever. The mouth
Mm.
has no benefits, no functions for breathing. It's an emergency system. But when
Mm.
you breathe in your nose, you have this tiny hole. Why would this hole be bigger? For
Mm.
food.
Mm-hmm.
This hole is small for a reason
Right. Right.
because the lungs don't want you. That's why when people have the nose surgery, they get something called empty nose syndrome, and they feel like they're drowning in air
Oh wow.
because they take out all the stuff that you were born with.
Right. Right.
And then all of a sudden, these people, they feel worse. They're drowning in air because the air's coming in so fast because there's stuff called turbinates inside your nose. They're like the Rocky Mountains.
Mm.
So if you're breathing in slow, so if I block one side and my brain is forced to slow down the speed of air,
Mm.
because if it breathes too hard, it's going to be stressed on the lungs.
Mm.
So the brainstem automatically starts to regulate, soften the breath, slow the breath. So I just sit there at night and I watch TV, and every so often I change it. and I just allow my body to breathe as slow and deep as I can. And that one thing I think would help a lot. But there's a disclaimer. Some people are going to go like this and they're going to feel claustrophobic and they're
Makes
going to be
sense.
like, this is too much.
Right.
So you know those feelings before they start to really get bad.
Mhm.
So as soon as you go like this and you're like, no, I'm starting not to feel good, just take it out
Mm.
and just stop for 5 minutes. Never allow yourself to go into the stress response. Never when it comes to breathing.
Mm.
So that one tip, even if it's just your finger,
Right. Right.
just your finger blocking your nose, don't pinch your nose. You cannot do it like this because that's neurological. It activates your trigeminal nerve. So you either gently cover it,
Mhm.
you stick your finger in it,
Got it.
or you take a tube and your brainstem understands what a tube is because your airway is a tube. So you can do it like that. And I would say right away, if you do that for a few weeks, you'll start to notice a huge relaxation response, which is the parasympathetic system. You start to increase parasympathetic tone. Maybe you start to sleep better. Like people, I used to use mouth tape
Mhm.
and it worked for like 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, I'm snoring again and I couldn't sleep because immediately my body said, oh, okay, you're supposed to breathe through your nose at night. And it started to regulate a little, but just breathing through my nose was not going to correct the brainstem issue. So
Makes
then
sense.
everything came back. So those are band-aids. So, but this is not a band-aid because your body can actually breathe out of one nose for the rest of your life if you didn't have one side functioning, and you should still be able to breathe nice and slow and deep because your nose is supposed to be 100% open. I have people block their nostril and I'm like, take 4 breaths and just tell me on a scale of 100, 100% being wide open, how open does your airway feel? And most people say, it's pretty open. It's 80%. And I go, 80%. Think about that for a second. If you have a nose, shouldn't it be 100% working?
Mhm.
And they go, yeah. I'm like, so is 80 that good? And they're like, no, but I never thought of it before.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, makes sense. And
Yeah.
and just to clarify, because I just tried it there for a second, but the primary purpose here is it to increase the efficiency of or restoring kind of like the natural process there? Because I mean, one thing I just noticed, just doing it for 5-10 seconds there wasn't that long on the other side of my nostril, which I was using for breathing. It's almost like I felt like initially I was like I had to like breathe a tiny bit harder. I felt my heart rate
Mm,
go up a tiny bit. So I'm
it
just
is.
curious. It's interesting because obviously this is not something I practice on a daily basis. But
Yeah.
is that the purpose? Is it for
Yes.
starting the restorative process with that?
Yes. So you noticed if you blocked one side and you were breathing through the side that's more compressed, not blocked,
Mm.
compressed,
Okay.
the airway can't get blocked, but it can compress and it gets smaller.
Mm.
So if you have to breathe through a smaller hole, do you have to breathe harder or less hard? If
My
the hole
first
is
question,
smaller,
it's smaller, so my first
you
thought
have
would
to,
be to be breathe harder, but I'm kind of feeling it's actually incorrect. It
no,
should
no,
be.
you're right.
Oh, okay.
You
So
would have to breathe harder because you'd have to breathe in harder to get more air in.
that makes sense. It's less
That's why
space.
your heart rate went up.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Interesting.
And so if you have if you're walking around with a nose that isn't working, then you're breathing harder than you should all the time. And that's decreasing your heart rate variability, increasing your breaths per minute. And none of that is a recipe for longevity, but that can take 30 years, right?
Jeez.
I mean, at 46, I was given that diagnosis, but she said in your 60s. So I could have lived like that
Mm.
another 20 years until I had a heart attack.
Wow.
And another, not a great anecdote. In fact, it's a very sad anecdote. I had a colleague. He was considered one of the 10 most fittest men in I don't know if it was the world or America, but he got voted this. And I don't want to name names because there's a lot of people out there that know him.
Mm.
And I was very good friends with his fiance. And he passed away a year ago from a massive heart attack. And this man exercised every day, very, very hard, and breathed through his mouth and did Wim Hof or hyperventilating. I don't want to call anybody out.
Mhm.
They did hyperventilating techniques
Mm.
and they forced themselves to breathe harder.
Mm.
That's like completely ignorant. And people will say, but Bryan, I've cured things like autoimmune or stress response from hyperventilating. I'm like, you didn't cure it. You numbed the brainstem's ability to tell you that it's still there.
Wow. Wow,
You didn't
that's
cure anything.
wow.
But it may help you in the short term, but now you have to do something like restore your natural innate ability to breathe, because hyperventilation is not found in nature.
Mhm.
No one does it. No animals do it.
Mhm.
People are like, what about when the animals are panting?
Mhm.
I'm like, well, first of all, when they're running in the chase, they're nose breathing. The
Mm.
cheetah's mouth isn't open. The antelope's mouth isn't open.
Mhm.
And the horse doesn't even know how to breathe through its mouth.
Mm.
So after the chase is over, they stop and they pant because then they're off gassing the increase of lactic acid that's coming out as a gas.
Mm.
And then, so they stop. They don't walk it off. There's no cool down period.
Mhm.
They stop and they pant. Then next thing you know, they sit down. Then they lie down. And they take like 30 minutes. The average cheetah hunt is 30 minutes in between each hunt because the cheetah knows I'm not recovered. I'm not recovered. Like people have, oh wait, I have to do my Tabata timer.
Yeah,
I have to
yeah,
train. I
yeah.
only get a 20-second break. So then you breathe heavier and heavier and heavier. And people think that that's good training. That's how I'm supposed to be working out.
Right, right.
That's not true at all.
Jeez. It's
Yeah.
all backwards. It's all
It's
backwards.
all backwards.
Jeez. Bryan,
Yeah.
I want to be respectful both of our time. I am tremendously, tremendously grateful for the opportunity to really have this deep dive with you. And, if somebody wanted to hire you for restorative breathing, for instruction, what would be the best place to go for contacting you?
Thank you for asking. Well, I only have two places. My Instagram is breath with an underscore in the middle,
Okay.
verse.
Breath_verse. Understood?
Yeah. And you can go on there, my link tree. You can book a consultation. You could DM me. We could start having a conversation because I actually ask questions first and I'll have conversations with people and I'll ask them specific questions, which gives me more background of what they're dealing with.
Mhm.
And then I would see if we're right for a consultation, if they feel they're right, and if I feel it's right for them to have a consultation with me. Or you can go on quantumfitness.org and you can find me through there. And I do one-on-one coaching, but it's to everybody who does one-on-one, that's their premium service.
Mhm.
So everything that I would teach, I've also put into video. And
Okay.
it's on my platform. And I made my platform completely cheap.
Mm.
It's $33 for a month and you could cancel at any time.
Mm.
You could probably even copy and paste everything that's in the programs.
Mm.
Maybe people are doing it. I don't care. I made the program cheap because not everybody can afford one-on-one coaching. So you can go on this platform, you can learn on your own, and you get added to a private Telegram group. And even if you only join for a month, I don't kick anybody out of the group because if they came to me, if they decided they wanted to learn from me, I don't want them to leave. I'm trying to create a heart-centered community of pro breathers. So I want my community to grow. And then every time somebody new comes on and they ask questions, maybe now you're learning.
Mhm.
So you can learn all the time. If you did 1 month, but you stayed in the group for life, you could learn without ever, paying anything. You could just learn from listening to the group chats.
Makes sense. And I appreciate you sharing. We'll make sure to get all the links, the details, put that in the show notes. I will personally say, guys, if you're looking for not just a certified expert, but someone who's actually been in the trenches, just speaking of Bryan, over this past hour plus and, having the opportunity to really learn from you, Bryan. Bryan, I'm leaving with so many insights, so many takeaways.
Thank you.
We're probably going to be in conversation myself, me reaching out to you and just learning, more, I know you don't teach, but it's, I'll use that word learning. Cause this is all this whole life is about learning.
Oh, you've heard me say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely deeply appreciate it. And Bryan, to wrap us up here, if a close loved one, somebody that you deeply cared about, if their
Mm.
health was failing and they came to you for help, they knew that you're the guy that they can come for help in 2 minutes, like what would you tell them? What would be kind of like your little 2 minute roadmap? Like, here's what you need to do. Here's how to get back on track. And I know this is like a very general question, but just out of
Yeah, no,
curiosity.
it's a great question. I would immediately teach them single side nostril breathing. First this, then open it, because that actually reorganizes your brain. So when you learn to breathe out of each nostril and you get good at it, you organize your brain. And when you use smell, it goes right to your limbic center, which is your emotional brain, your amygdala. And then I would teach them how to put salt, lemon, and vinegar on their tongue, which activates their parasympathetic system and helps them build capacity. So in 6 very simple exercises, if you just did those for the next 2 years every day, you could have remarkable transformation.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
It's
So I would immediately get them to organize their brain. And then that organizes their breathing. And somebody who's struggling is going to be breathing hard and fast all the time. So if you can calm them down first and foremost, that's the most important part, calming someone down.
That makes sense. It's like the baseline, it's the fundamentals, the foundation that you build on, for the
Yeah.
rest of the health layers.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Bryan, any other nuggets, anything else you'd like to add or share before we wrap up?
Yeah. Just make sure that you breathe through your nose at all times. And if you're mouth breathing at all, then you want to work on shifting to nose breathing 100% of the time, except when you're talking and eating.
Mhm.
So that's really the most important part, is nose breathing all the time, because it'll save your life. There's a great book called Shut Your Mouth and Save Your Life. And it was written like 100 years ago too. Shut your mouth, save your life.
Really good one. Yeah, it sounds like a good one to
Yeah.
check out. Yeah. And guys, nose breathing, that's where it's at. That's where we need to start. This is the fundamentals. I mean, without breath, without the physiological process of breathing, like most of us would pass away in minutes, and yet most of us live in these chronic states of disease and, unease, and yet we have
Yes.
such a simple fundamental practice that Bryan has presented, has shared here with us.
Yeah.
So, Bryan, thank you again. Appreciate the
Thank you,
time,
Gabriel.
the
Cool.
space. Yeah, it's
And
been a
thank you to
pleasure.
everybody out there in Gabriel world.
Thank you, everybody.